Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review episode 10 of Dexter New Blood. So, really, I had thought that I've kind of recorded down everything that I wanted to say about this episode, and then I realized, I'm like, you know what? There's probably so much that I still was just mowing over and thinking about and whatever while just going through and talking about the show. So, like, you'll kind of see this kind of weird, goofy thing going on here and whatever. Really, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there because I've kind of seen like a wide reaction of people that probably may have never even heard of this show before, but it's like, hey man, this is gonna get somewhere, and all of a sudden they're going on and talking about the season finale rather than about the show altogether. Or maybe they don't know anything about the show, or it is what it is. But there's sometimes where I don't remember exactly everything about the show. With the way that this show is to pay out via this last episode, is to make me look back as this season as a whole and just realize, I'm like, man, this season just felt so like on the cheap end of things, where all of a sudden we just start to see certain characters that vanish and we're like, whatever happened to that guy? Oh, I guess it doesn't really matter because show is ending, series is ending, and they did it in kind of a very small budgety like way, which we didn't get enough kills in this season. We really didn't get enough, like, they didn't up the ante anywhere. It was just like, okay, here now, finished. Here now, this is how we finish this. And to just kind of see a lot of people just realizing, so you effed up a show not only once, but then you doubled down and created on the cheap end a show that was to eventually just uproar fans, upset fans, probably to turn around and eventually do one of two things. Surprise people by like, oh, well, like, but you didn't see the absolute ending of this show, or to turn around and eventually have us like heavily talk about this show and think that this show is going one way to eventually swerve us maybe possibly somehow, or really just going on and trying to sell us something that honestly I don't think anybody really has any interest in wanting to possibly actually see here. And there is so much stuff that while going through this show, I'm like, this is how this show is going to end? Like, I'm looking at the timestamps and going like, this is really how we're going to spend our time this last episode. That's really what I felt about this show. Was like, man, we have spent how much time just on this one thing? And how is it that we just have it all come down to this? We've had Dexter through a number of seasons escape seemingly everything, but it all comes down to one simple small town of a sheriff and one simple like mistake, because Dexter is always to be Dexter and he'll never change. To all of a sudden, we eventually have it to where this is how this season is to really finish up, wrap up, whatever, in the only way that a Dexter show could have been written. For how many years they've probably just been sitting on this story, and this is how we finish this up, this is how we wrap it up. This is how we go off to possibly have another season, maybe, which no one is going to be interested in. That everyone is just going to be insulted by there being another season, probably. At this point, yeah. But here's the thing. When we have the word New Blood being placed in here, there's a reason why this show is to be called New Blood. There was a whole, like, people probably should have realized that all along. but like I really didn't want to have this be true. Like I really didn't want like New Blood to me just kind of felt like, oh, they're doing something new. They're putting some more product out. Like, but really New Blood is to eventually go on and mean something else here. And I'm like I'm still not won over by this show. I'm not won over by how cheaply it was done also. Um because it just this season overall just felt cheap to where we're still just like, wait a minute, there were so many questions that I still had about the show. What the happened with Molly? What the happened with this? What the happened? Like, and the closure that they gave me was not good enough. No, I'm not happy. I'm not happy about this. No one is. Anyone who is a fan of this show is not happy by the way this show is to rattle off and whatever. And I'm sure people are just gonna be like, well, they're gonna do something about it. Like everybody's just gonna be like, we're gonna shame everybody who is to just think that this is to just finish up, and then we'll be wrong, and they'll be like, wait a minute, all right, good. It's probably going to be that where all of a sudden we're going to turn around and have egg on our faces, realizing like, oh, good, they did this way. Yeah, I'll watch this show then, because I'm feeling that like I have this like weird, goofy feeling in my bones that we're thinking something is going to turn out the way it is, but then all of a sudden we find out like because no one's going to probably bother watching another season of this. But then we're going to turn this all around and just be like, oh no, hey, yeah. We purposely just wanted to tick a lot of people off. We purposely wanted people to just start watching the show now. We purposely just wanted to just irritate a bunch of people on purpose. Could that be the game plan? Could that be the weird, goofy thing that people are just to mind F with people now? Because that's what it feels like this show is. There was so much stuff that should have been brought to a head in this episode that will never get to do a thing of which, like, there isn't a real legitimate, absolute tying to a previous Dexter thing to now be here. This show. This show, like, I don't know if I really want to go on to another season if there is going to be one. Unless they are to just give me, like, really a something. Like, ooh, I was right. Or, ooh, no. That, none of that. None of that jazz. So we'll see here, because I have this just feeling, a weird, bizarre feeling in me that is to tell me that there is something here that doesn't feel quite all that resolved still. Oddly. I don't know why, but it just has that feeling. So, let's go and let's double five this. Really what all I can say for Cryptic Like Sense is Dexter is to be Bookum Danoed in this episode. He, of course, is to be booked on some charge, let's just say, and we take a whole entire episode to really just build to that. And I'm like, man, this season finale, like, this is what they're doing? Like, that's kind of when I was watching the show, like, that was my real reaction. It's like, this is what they're doing to wrap this up? Man, does this feel cheap. That was my just knee-jerk thing of just like, man, we have so much story to tell. There's so many things we could do with it, and they're doing this? Alright, okay, let's just... Anyways, so... let's just go into it. Let's go into that double five, because otherwise that time yet again. Let's go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time we do spoil this episode. Sure. So we go on. We have just the life is just sucked out of me because of this thing. So we of course have Angela that is to go on and listen to the podcast of Mary effing Kill, going on and having her telling us about that she has to go on into this town, pulled into this town by uh, pulled into the town of Iron Lakes to go and find a missing kid who, of course, is to be Matt Caldwell. Then to turn around and all of a sudden find that Kurt is to really have some story here to tell. Some story about his father. And maybe that's why Molly was to go on and to get Kurt's story about possibly Kurt's father, and she never got to finish that story. Maybe that's what that recording was for Molly to get that story, because if anything, Molly wanted something out of this to just kind of like eat up some time here. So we go on here. We have Angela, who of course is to make it to Dexter's house, burnt down. Everybody's going and trying to help out. There's a number of people that we, of course, ending up seeing that we've kind of barely ever seen throughout this show, aka Jeff Jr. with the pastor and his dog, finally saying that I guess they really did get that dog. Abraham Brown, who of course is to be the Native American who was to, of course, to have something possibly to do with the whole Matt Caldwell situation, but that just went nowhere. If, like, we could have done something with Abraham Brown and we did nothing with this character throughout the whole show. Dr. Patel, like, did we find out that her treats that were given by Kurt were possibly poisoned? The secondhand gift that Angela was to give Dr. Patel, did we eventually find out these things were poisoned? No, because the story didn't go there. The story went nowhere. So we, of course, have Angela, who's going on and wanting them to kind of figure out whether or not Dexter's house is to have been arsoned or accidented. And so, of course, Angela's asking both Dexter and Harrison, well, could there be a culprit to all this? Harrison is to go on and mention the wrestling team that, of course, was to beat him up. And so Angela's kind of getting the details of these guys. And so we really have it to where they can't really think of anybody that is to go after them. But it seems later on in the episode we find out that this home is to be arsoned, burnt down, and Kurt is to seemingly be the one who had burnt down Dexter's home because they find the evidence on that, as well as they find out that Kurt is now gone and everything is now weirdly missing, or he's missing, with all the stuff seeming to tell us that he had vamoosed. So we go on and we, of course, have both Dexter and Harrison to go and get some things loaned to them by this community, by Audrey and a number of the wrestling team that Harrison is, of course, to go to school with, Zach and whoever, going on and giving them, like, hey man, here's a bunch of clothes that we found in donation, but also, hey, like, Harrison, here's a letter jacket, because you might as well just toss this bad boy on, because you might as well get some souvenir from the show, because heaven forbid you're going to be able to get out of here with probably any merchandise from the show. I would have taken that jacket if this was going to be the end of the show. Like, yoink! So we have Harrison on getting on this letter jacket because they had all pitched in to buy him one. So we, of course, have Dexter, who's getting this feeling that I think since their house is to burn down, I think it's time for them to move on. So Dexter goes on with Harrison, and it is to mention here, it's like, well, hey, like, how about, like, we go and, since our house is burned down anyways, and, like, it feels like the perfect time to move, how about we move? As they go and they put the stuff in the back of their truck. So we go on and we have Harrison who's like he doesn't really want to move. Like he seems to make a number of friends here. And consistently when Dexter is to mention about moving once they get in this truck together, we have Harrison's like, well, like if we move on to LA, I'll be so far away from my friends and my girlfriend that obviously I don't want to give up because it seems that Harrison has barely made friends here. Whereas Dexter is just like, dude, I could just leave and move now. Like we still have it where Harrison is to not be like as really just a person without feelings like Dexter is, where he can just kind of pull the ripcord at any second and not feel a thing. So Harrison is going and talking to Dexter while they're driving off, getting all their stuff to Audrey's place, because that's where they're going to stay for a little bit. So Dexter is to go on and talk to Harrison about them going to LA because that's such a bigger state where somebody will probably not miss somebody going missing, so to speak. And because Dexter is to think that LA could be like something similar to Miami, where like it could be the perfect spot for them to go off to continue to kill people when their dark passenger is to rev up, or just really need to kill. So we go on here and we have both Dexter and Harrison who are to go on to Audrey's place as well as Angela's and just kind of have fun, just kind of, just have nothing better to do. So, and we have it where Harrison is asking Dexter, it's like, well, like, let me know when I should tell Audrey about us leaving because, like, so, to kind of figure out when's the best time. So, we have Angela that is to go through, of course, Dexter's house, and she ends up finding the nail that is to match the same nails from the message that she was to have gotten by some mysterious person saying that Dexter had killed Matt Caldwell. So we now go on, we have Angela that is to walk into her home and come up with a convincing way to have both Harrison and Audrey leave here. And we really have it to where Angela, like, there's so many times, weirdly, that we start to see throughout this show that Angela more and more is starting to become more and more distant from Dexter. And Dexter is to always just, I guess, in his own mind, think it's like, well, dude, I got away from all of these other people. Angela isn't going to be the one to take me down. Angela isn't going to be the one. She's not smart enough. She's not this. And then all of a sudden we have that one episode where the CSI guy is coming in, is like, well, this happened and that happened, and blah, 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 because Dexter had gotten viciously sloppy, and it seemed like the CSI guy had spotted a number of things. But this time around, it's different. This time around, it's still like, what? Because Angela is to go on, and after the kids leave, she goes on and is to whip out her gun and arrest Dexter. And Dexter is like, oh yeah, like we're role playing again. Like I get the kids away so we can finally play, And Angela's like, no, this is for real. As Logan is coming from the back door to arrest Dexter, and Dexter's like, oh my god, what? So we of course have him like barely being read his Miranda rights, and Dexter's just saying it's like, well, your partner just told me to like shut the F up, so I guess that's Miranda enough. So Dexter goes on and is going into the back of Angela's car, and Dexter's like, well, can we talk? And Angela's like, no. Like we'll do a lot of talking when we get to the station. So Dexter goes on and is to get his fingers printed. He goes on to get his mugshot, and so now he's in a cell. So we have this weird back and forth where Angela just wants to consistently like question Dexter, but then lets him go to the cell, but then let's question him some more. And I'm like, man, they're really just like, why can't you just have like? It seems like there's a lot of stuff that they just want to just eat time by doing, in all honesty. Like the whole transition of him going back and forth. Why can't he just stay in this one interrogation room? I don't know how many times that somebody had been kept in an interrogation room for a very long stretch of time. I guess this show doesn't have a good enough interrogation room to keep Dexter in. Ah. Like, it is what it is here. We also, it's like, where the heck is Essler in this police station? Was she off that night? What's going on here? Because there were plenty of times where I was like, where is Essler here? And she's gone, suspiciously. Anyways, so we of course have it to where Dexter is to go onto the station and be questioned by Angela. So the big thing is that Angela is thinking like, well, I'm going to tie you to the Matt Caldwell murder. And Dexter's just like, really? Please tell me how you can tie me to that. Please. Please tell me how you're going to tie me to that. So we of course have Angela who's like, well, the video. And I'm like, really? The video that could have tied him to that X amount of episodes still is to be the evidence you have now? Wow, that's razor thin. And we just still having Angela just desperately trying to cling on to just some kind of hope that she can just try to figure out how to book Dexter on something. And the only real smoking gun that we have here is, oh, I found a screw at your house that looks similar to the titanium screws of Matt Caldwell. And Angela's thinking that this is the smoking gun, and Dexter's like, wow. So we're really just having Angela confronting all of this with Dexter, and Dexter's like, there is nothing substantial here to link me to any of this. But then here is the second round of this, as Dexter is to go off, or is that Angela is to go off, and come back to question Dexter even more so. So we have Angela that is going on and taking or telling Harrison that he can speak to his father, because Audrey and Harrison are now showing up at the station just kind of wondering what the heck is going on here. So we have Harrison hug his dad because Logan is to uncuff him and give them some kind of some alone time here. But Logan is to kind of pat Harrison up and down to just kind of see if there's anything that Harrison can give Dexter here. So we go on and we have it where it seems like they could have gone on and kept that camera rolling while Dexter and Harrison are hugging here, just to kind of reveal something, and for Angela to have some kind of footage on Dexter, but they didn't do that. So we go on and we have Dexter telling Harrison here, it's like, well, yeah, the whole thing is about them tying me to Matt Caldwell. You're safe. If anything, they don't know about a number of things yet, and so I'm going to kind of work my way into kind of bargaining with that. So we have Harrison go off and because Dexter is to tell him it's like go at the inn. There's going to be a girl there. She'll probably give you food and a place to rest for the night. And because I guess these townspeople are very reliable. So, but we go on and have both Logan and Harrison kind of eat dinner together. And we have, of course, Logan making the thing about, hey, don't eat too many cheeseburgers because I don't want you to go up in weight class for wrestling because we're still thinking about wrestling, even though Harrison's like, dude, I'm probably going to leave this town once my dad dies. What do I need to be here for? Even though Harrison is just like, but I have that girlfriend, though, but I have this, though, but I have that, though. So we go on and we have Dexter, who is to, after talking to Harrison, he ends up getting put in prison, where, of course, he's to get this tuna sandwich by Logan, so that way he can eat. So we, of course, go on here and now have Angela going and talking to Audrey and saying, like, well, hey, like, I think that Dexter is really dangerous, and I also don't think that you should be going and seeing Harrison right now. Just give him some space. And Audrey's like, well, why? Like, is Harrison dangerous? So we have Angela confirming to Audrey that's like, hey, I'll tell you everything later. I'll tell you it all. And so really at this point Audrey is just like, you know what, like I'm gonna go and rebel against my mother. And because Harrison is to go and grab his backpack at their house, and so Audrey and Harrison are going and sleeping together again. And so because we go on and eventually we have uh Dexter, who is still like the master plan is for them to escape here. So we go on and we have Angela that is to go and make a call to Angel Batista. And it's kind of funny we have the Angela. So we, of course, go on and we find out that Angel is to be a happily married man. I'm like, oh, so he did get remarried after LaGuardia, because technically LaGuardia and him were getting married, and then she, of course, died in the other show. Spoiler alert for anybody that didn't see the whole entire thing of Dexter. So we go on, and of course, we have Dave Batista, who is to say he's remarried, but I'm like, but to who? Tell me that you got remarried with that one woman of yours. Did that not work out? Tell me. That was the one thing that bugged the crap out of me. That, and also was Kurt's food poisoned when Angela was to re-gift that whole thing to the veterinarian. Did the veterinarian die? Was that poisoned? I'm assuming not, because we would have heard about a dead body popping out somewhere. I think we also have to, like, was ketamine the actual drug that Dexter was to use in that whole Bay Harbor Butcher case? Or was it something else? That's gonna bug the shit out of me. Because it seems that convenient that we just have, like, this ketamine case. But, like, was that the same similar thing? I don't know, it's so weird. So because we're gonna bring that shortly to the forefront here. So Angela's talking to Angel and saying it's like, well, hey, I hope I didn't give you the wrong impression because I'm a happily married man. And Angela's like, no, like that whole case, that whole Bay Harbor Butcher case, like, do you think that Dokes did it? And Angela's just like, well, there were many theories going on, and we had LaGuardia that was thinking that Dexter was to maybe be the Bay Harbor Butcher, but we were never really sure. And so Angela's like, well, let me get that girl's number. That is to have her have suspicions about Dexter. And Angela's like, well, that's the sad part. She's dead. And Angela's like, well, did you ever find the murderer of LaGuardia? And Angel's like, well, no. And so we go on and we have Angela send Angel an email, which I don't know exactly how she got, but like she evidently emailed Angel to go on and give him a picture of Dexter Morgan with her. And so Angel's asking when was this picture done, and he was saying a month ago, and he's like, oh my god. Dexter is still alive, motherfucker! So Angel is to go and grab his file labeled LaGuardia, and he's like, I'm on my way. Sure, you're really going to be on your way. Sure, whatever. So we go on here, and we now have Angela who's like, I know Dexter is to do this now. Like, there's so much suspicion, and I feel like I've gotten this. I'm like, wait a minute. So Dexter is gonna be like just handed in on a silver platter with them finding out the real killer of all this via just this small town sheriff. What the is this? Really? You would have thought that Dexter would have never gotten away with this in a million years, but we just turn around now and just have this one small town detective that just has nothing better to do but to suspiciously think that her own boyfriend is a murderer. And man, wouldn't she know it, she caught herself one, like, I guess, Deb in the whole ice truck killer situation, where she just got on with egg on her face, realizing that the whole time, like, oh my god, he's a murderer. And I never really knew. One little slip up and all of a sudden the dominoes start falling. So we go on here and we have Angela confronting Dexter about this whole ordeal, going on and saying all the evidence, which is basically, again, review at this point, to just show all these pictures of both Miles and Jasper, the drug guys who are to go on and have these needles into their system. And I'm like, that means nothing. These guys are drug addicts, like, or they're drug dealers. What is to eventually still tie Dexter here to these people? This is still so freaking flimsy. But we just have it to where Angela's like, well, it's a pattern here, as we forcibly have Dexter to be re-questioned by Angela. She's like, well, it's a pattern. It's the same way, like, this injection was the exact same injection as the Bay Harbor Butcher characters. So there's the pattern. Oh, like, I'm going to say that you're the Bay Harbor Butcher guy now because it makes a lot of sense. And it doesn't. It really doesn't. So Dexter goes back into the cell, and so all of a sudden now Dexter is talking to Morgan here, or Deborah. So we have Deborah going on and telling Dexter, it's like, well, like, Angela just has her hooks into you, and she won't rest until you're put away for the rest of your life. And Batista is going to come in here, and he's going to come up with some kind of way to put you... So, like, you got to come up with some kind of something here that is going to, like... it's either you're going to go away for the rest of your life, and you won't kill anybody anymore, or you're going to need to do something. So Dexter decides to go on and is to call over Logan to give him a water, because, like, he's kind of cotton mouth because of all the talking he's had to do lately. And we also had Dexter when, because I didn't want to forget this, because when Angela is to bring up all this Bay Harbor Butcher stuff, we have Dexter who is to go and turn in Kurt to tell her exactly where all of these bodies are to be held, as a kind of possible thing for him to have a uh, a way to maybe kind of lessen his sentence because he was to turn in Kurt and have maybe everything tied really to Kurt here instead of him. So Kurt is to rattle off the kind of the little bunker, the little hidden place that Angela is to go to seek out. And while Angela's doing that, Logan is to go and get killed here simply by him giving Dexter a thing of water. And Dexter is to go and hold and kind of restrain Logan here. And I'm like, okay, like, I don't really understand the way of which that Logan is to actually die here, because you would think Dexter holding on to Logan's neck would have Dexter just snap Logan's neck here. But Dexter is to consistently ask Logan to just get his keys and that's all he should do. But instead, Logan starts grabbing for his gun and Dexter's like, no, wrong move. So Dexter all of a sudden goes and is to shoot or is to just kill Logan here. And now Dexter is to have blood on the side of his face because of the killing of Logan here. And I would have thought immediately you would have snapped this guy's neck, but I guess not in this story. So Dexter is to run off, get the keys from Logan, go and get, of course, Logan's cell, and go and get Logan's car, and so on and so forth. And here's my thought process here. Was the car at the end of this thing here, was that Dexter's car or was that Elric's car? Because I think from what I remember, like, what kind of car did Elric have? Oh yeah, that was like a double door car. Because I remember, because Dexter had to be in the back of it. Okay, so Elric's car never comes into play here. Okay, so it obviously has to be Dexter's car. Why is it that Dexter's car is to be in the location of where it is at the end of this show? That just, I don't know, I guess that doesn't quite absolutely make sense to me, but I guess it is what it is for this story. So we go on here and we have now Dexter through Logan's phone calling him and saying like, hey, like, we need to scramble, we need to get out of Dodge. And so Harrison is mentioning that he slept over at Audrey's, and Dexter's like, okay, great, that's even better, just meet me where, of course, the white elk deer was to eventually be found, just go with me there. So we go on, and we, of course, have Dexter meet Harrison at this spot. And we have kind of Angela hot on his trail, because Angela's to go on and find this bunker and then make it out of there, realizing that a number of people that had been on missing persons posters had now been found by Angela, and Molly had been found, and the girl on the pilot episode that Angela was to give money to, because Dexter was to tell Angela that was a good thing that she did, that girl is also dead, and we have to remember that now because they showcase that. So tying into an importance of Angela doing a good deed that eventually just goes nowhere now. So we go on and we have Angela desperately trying to call for Logan, and Logan isn't answering via the walkie or via the phone. So Angela goes on and is trying to call Terry here, the other maybe not exactly best officer for the job, so to speak, is to go on and answer this phone. And Angela's saying, like, we need to get everybody and your brother out here before, like, the news reporters get to this, and, like, we need to just get everybody, like, send everybody. kind of thing. Like she's rattling off all these things that Teddy needs to call for them to get a lid on this whole case. So we now have it where Dexter is to now make it to, of course, where Harrison is, and he's listening over the radio, and he's like, "Man, that was fast." So we go on, and we have it where Dexter's to make it to Harrison, and so really the big thing here is that Harrison is to realize, like, hey, like, why do you have blood on you? Why do you have blood on your face? And so Dexter's like, well, it isn't mine. And that's what becomes this whole new thing now, or this whole thing, this whole story is just really just tying into, hey, there's blood on your face. Why is there blood on your face? So Dexter is to say, it's like, well, I had to get here to for us to escape. Like I had to kill somebody. And Harrison makes the realization, it's like, oh my God, like you killed Logan. You killed my coach because you called me from his cell phone. And so all of a sudden now Harrison is like, oh my God, like at first you told me that you just killed people that were bad people. Now you're just killing everybody. And Dexter's like, well, like I had to, like it was basically defending myself, and Logan just died. Harrison's not convinced. So Harrison is now going on and saying, it's like, well, like out of all the things that you've done, all of this is all your fault. My mother dying, all these people getting killed, me being as effed up as I am, and all of this is all your fault. So now we really just bring it ahead and give the ending that everyone was really just expecting here. Like everybody, there was no doubt in their minds how this show was going to end, because this is the most unsurprising ending a show can deliver you, is Harrison is to use his Christmas gift against Dexter to now shoot him. And so now Harrison is to go and be just like Kurt here and use this gun against Dexter. Possibly we might have it to where Angela is to curve this story to have it be Kurt was the one who was to have shot Dexter here, instead of it being really just Harrison here. We don't know how this story is really to end, and I'm assuming there's probably going to be a Harrison spinoff after this, which I will not be interested in. I don't care if Dexter is to eventually be Harrison's Harry. I don't care. Like, no, I'm still very just about this show, because this show was just like, man, it was poorly put together and poorly finished. Poorly finished is like for this last season, weaker than a lot of other seasons in a lot of ways. And there was so many things where I'm like, I still have questions. There's so many unreserved or some stuff that kind of feels like I want to know what happened to Molly. I want to know how she died. I want to see her face when she dies. That kind of thing. I want to see so many people of how they exactly died, because they should have done that and they didn't. They couldn't have been bothered. So that, like, just whatever with this show. So we have Angela show up and is to, of course, now just... She can forgive Harrison because technically Harrison had murdered Dexter. But Angela couldn't look the other way to forgive Dexter, who was her lover, who was her... Angela barely knows Harrison, and there seems to be a lot of stories that are coming up that Harrison maybe was damaged goods. Like, look at the story that Harrison was to give Audrey at some point, and Audrey just, I guess, completely forgot about that whole story when Audrey was talking to Angela, like, oh yeah, I guess, like, Harrison is a dangerous guy. Like, he told me before how he likes to hurt people and whatever, but we forget about that, like, episodes ago. Whatever. So, Harrison shoots Dexter, and now Angela just wipes the gun and tells Harrison, "Hey, here's a couple bucks, and go and take this car and just continually drive out of town. Just I never want to see you again. Goodbye." We have Harrison just starting to drive through this town, reflecting on all the things that he's going to miss: his school, his girlfriend, a dead Logan, a dead Logan. I don't know. But we have Harrison just driving out of this town, and I'm like, this is seriously how this show ends, with a possible spin-off that no one is going to be interested in. And a lot of people are immediately saying that there's going to be a Harrison spin-off, and I don't care. Dexter needs to be alive in that season for me to give a like. Everybody's going to say, oh, you'll watch. No. If Dexter's not alive in this next season, I have no interest. I have no inkling of interest. I don't care how massive the views are going to be. It's just, no. I don't care if I would get 1 billion subscriptions out of that. No. It's just a thing of just, like, no, I won't do that. It has to be Dexter. It has to be he's still alive. Because really, when thinking about it, we could all of a sudden, at the last second, end up having Harrison not having a wound good enough to shoot his dad, his own dad, and Dexter could come back and kill Angela horrifically, and then go on and continue to live. We could have it to where Dexter was to have planned all along that Harrison might shoot somebody with this gun, and Dexter had planted a certain kind of bullet inside this gun. Because we had Dexter in episodes before realize that his son could be a murderer in one way or another. That whole horrific dream that Dexter was to have about his son could trigger the fact that Dexter is to not allow Harrison with a real gun here, or a real knife, or whatever, and let Dexter just go on and be like, okay, shoot me. Like, I was expecting there to be like a Mr. Brooks kind of moment, but there wasn't here, with like Kevin Costner and Dane Cook, where all of a sudden Harrison was to go on and click, oh, no bullets, stab, and you're dead, Harrison, sorry. But no, like, Dexter was even helping Harrison out and saying, like, hey, the safety's on, make sure you have the safety off to shoot me. And I'm like, really? Just, like, foreshadowing that they were going to go and have that, like, come back up, making sure that Dexter is to say, like, well, yeah, this is the only way out. This is the only way out for me, because we have Harrison saying that Dexter's dark passenger is driving him to kill all these people, whether they're innocent or not, whether it's Batman or not. So, yeah, that's just how the show rattles off without us getting a clear, like, path of giving us a good ending, to give us this ending that we're just like, oh, about. The worst possible decision is what they went with. Because they're like, well, it's obvious we can go in these nice, neat little ways, but we just wanted a definitive ending because we just forcibly want a spin-off. Man, are you guys just trying to market another show somewhere down the line? Whatever. So, with that said, I think that's all that I wanted to say about this show. Just very, of course, upset, as well as a number of people. But I think I also want to just get out of here. I hope that I've talked about everything. But there's probably so much more that I probably didn't even talk about in this episode. So if there's something that I missed, because I'm sure there is, this is probably going to be the very last Dexter show review for New Blood. For me, I might go on and review the early seasons to cover all those, to eventually think that there might be a possible New Blood season that has a all of a sudden resurrected Dexter, and we're like, oh my god, we're going crazy. Uh, because maybe they planned that too. Maybe that was the whole ruse of it all. Maybe that was the whole like thing to like tick everybody off, getting this show to talk about it like every certain season. Like eventually, how season 4 was to end, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, like you can't end a season like that." And to have us just be that upset and that angry, and really for a lot of people, like they're like, "How do you f this stuff up twice and give us an ending we still don't want, or we're still just kind of bugging you about? Why not just give us this like ending everyone could be satisfied about, and not just be like, man, like somebody else, I hope you can just come up with a equal or similar Dexter kind of show. Man, if we can just start having Dexter spin-offs just like crazy, to give us some kind of like Dexter thing we can be much more satisfied about, then I would be willing to go into that. Maybe there's the Angel Files or the Angel Chronicles that eventually I could be like, ooh, like I'll go into that. Maybe. So with that said, I'm going to wrap this up. I've spoke for far too long, but I'm just so like this. Uh, this show felt so cheap, and then it's to give us a possibly series ending thing that really, for Dexter being dead, I'm just not. There's so many problems with this season, and yeah, so I'm gonna get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody. Hopefully, I've covered everything. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about this show. If you're happy or satisfied. There's some people that might have loved this season finale. They're like, yeah, this show is over. I no longer have to watch it. I wasn't happy about this show. There might have been a lot of people that dropped off, hence why the views were so high on whatever things. Because people were just like, this is seriously how we're doing this show? I don't know. People might have had that feeling where it's just like, yeah, just not as good as whatever XYZ thing. So I'm just going to go and rewatch stuff, which I can understand people doing that. So with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.